Hello, it's me, it's editing Anya behind the scenes, letting you know what this second video is all about. So in an effort to keep these videos a little bit on the shorter side, I decided to split up my Samhain video into two. The first one, which you should have seen earlier this week, on the stories and the mythology surrounding Samhain as a holiday. This one will talk about some ancient traditions that would have been common, as well as how you can bring these traditions into your own modern day celebrations, whether you are in a group or solitary. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you all later. Happy Samhain! Traditions and superstitions are very big around Samhain, even in ancient times, and a lot of the traditions and superstitions that we have now come from these ancient times. Why is this happening? Probably because at Samhain, just like Beltane, the veil between worlds is thought to be very thin. This could come from the story that the goddess may find herself going into the underworld to comfort the god, or even in her laying down to rest with him in hibernation. The idea might be that the veil between worlds thins due to this. But because of this, at Samhain, it's thought to be a time where spirits are walking the earth and are closer to us. So that can mean ghosts, that can mean the fae, it can mean the sea, but it can also be our ancestors and those who have gone before us. Samhain is a great time to work with and connect with those who have gone beyond. So what are traditions that have been very much associated with Samhain? Well, bonfires are a big one. And actually, we see bonfires being very big around the autumn season as well. So we can see how those traditions of big bonfires have carried into modern society. But at Samhain especially, these bonfires would have been very sacred. You would have had druids lighting these sacred bonfires, and everyone would have been expected to be in attendance at this major holiday. And offerings and prayers and yes, sacrifices would have been made in order to ensure favor and survival through the approaching winter months. Another thing that would have been very big at this time would also have been offerings and suppers made to ancestors. This probably would have been something known as a dumb supper, in which you would prepare food and drinks for not just yourselves, but you would also make a place at your table for the ancestors that have gone before you. You would have opened the windows and doors to invite them in, and you would have had a supper with them, as though they are actually here, sharing stories and tales of what's gone on in the year that's passed. And young kids would probably put on plays and tell jokes and things like that. It would be a way to welcome the ancestors back and keep them present in your lives. Plates and the glasses that you prepared for your ancestors, you would put that outside so that nature could take it and have its own share as well, in a sense. Fortune telling, big and special any time of the year, but especially at a time of the year when the veil between worlds is thought to be thin. So having little traditions and little games and little fortune telling things going on would have been very common. I have definitely heard that at this time, a lot of people, especially young girls, young ladies, would have been trying to do some fortune-telling games that would have told them the name or the initials of their future partners and things like that. I believe I've read one where you peel the skin off of an apple and you throw it over your shoulder, and whatever letters the skins appear as after you throw them over your shoulder would be the initials of the person who is going to be your partner. So these little types of fortune-telling games would have been common at this time. And then also we have guising and costume wearing. Again, where these traditions from modern day Halloween come from. In ancient times, the guising and the wearing of costumes would have been done by kids in a way to also protect them, because again, we're thinking about a time when the veil between worlds is thin. So the idea of guising might have also been to protect children and young ones from any sort of evil spirits that might also be wandering around during this time at Samhain. Now, all that being said, you might want to know, what can you do in order to welcome this feeling, this vibe of Samhain into your life? And luckily there's a few things you can do, whether you are solitary or whether you are in a group. So some ideas that I have that might help you get into that feeling of Samhain would be tell fortunes. Pull out a tarot deck if you have it, pull out some runes if you have it, or you can silently meditate, you can journal, you can do some automatic writing, you can do that trick with the apple. Get an apple and peel it and throw it over your shoulder and see what initials you get. You can do little things like that. If you don't have things like a tarot cards or a rune set, I think there are websites out there where you might be able to print out a free Lenormand deck. That might be an option for doing some fortune telling as well. So there are plenty of options for you to find little ways to bring in some fun fortune telling things into your Samhain traditions. Another fun thing might be to tell ghost stories. Tell or read ghost stories if you're on your own, because obviously we're talking about a time when the veil between worlds is thin, so ghost stories would be perfect for this time of the year, and it also is very much connected to modern day Halloween. Set up your own ancestral dinner if you're able to. As you're preparing dinner for yourself and your family, or even just for yourself, make an extra portion if you're able to, and set it out for your ancestors. If you're in a position where you don't know that you can do that, maybe find something small that you can make. Here in Scotland, something that I occasionally do, I buy rolls that you can store in the freezer, and then when you're ready to have one, you can pop it into the oven for 15 minutes and you get a nice, warm, golden, crispy roll. And it's a nice little way to have a little bit of bread that can also be used as an offering. So if you are in a position where you would like to maybe talk to or commune with your ancestors, but you don't know what you have to offer, if you have something like that, something that is easy to make that you can make a single portion of, have a plate for yourself and have a plate for your ancestors. Sit quietly in your bedroom and meditate, speak with them, talk to them about what you wish to talk about. And when you are done, place the food outside as an offering. But this might be a good way to help you connect to your ancestors and to yourself, and to keep that tradition alive, that just because someone has gone to rest before us doesn't mean we have to forget about them. We can honor them and their spirits in this way. And if you're able to, that might be a good tradition to bring into your family at this time as well. Obviously, any day is a great day to have offerings to your deities, but similarly, Samhain is a great time to do that as well. So if you're able to, making offerings of food or drink is also great to do at this time. If you keep an altar, Samhain is a great time to transition into the colors of the season, so like blacks and purples, but also some reds and oranges. Tokens of the time of the year would be pumpkins. You know how we have like those mini pumpkins, which might be perfect for an altar, but also things like cinnamon and clove. Even going out and collecting some of the beautifully colored leaves at this time of the year, having tokens around that remind you of the season is a great way to honor the holiday of Samhain. Go to a bonfire if you're able to, obviously. Some places don't have bonfires, some places it's really difficult to get to a bonfire. Not everyone is doing a bonfire on Halloween night because a lot of places have more modern Halloween celebrations, so finding a bonfire that is celebrating Samhain in and of itself might be difficult. If you have the means to do it, you know, a safe space to do it, and you're practicing well and your household is okay with it, light a fire pit in your backyard and think about what this time of the year means in terms of nature and the sun, and how we are slowly going to prepare to go inward in order to be reborn in a few weeks' time. If you can't do that, it is still a fire festival. So private celebrations, solitary celebrations by yourself in your room, in your own personal space, lighting a candle and thinking on these things is also a great way to honor the season. Finally, meditation and reflection are great things to do at this time as well. They are great things to do no matter what time of the year it is, but at any of the holidays on the wheel of the year, and especially at Samhain, because those of us that were raised in modern societies, and especially Western societies, this holiday deals with a lot of topics that maybe we're not too comfortable with. So taking the time to meditate on that and think about what the time of the year means, and thinking about the transition of the year, is a great way to help get you comfortable with this holiday and understand why it's an important holiday to celebrate. And hopefully it also helps remind you that death in and of itself is a transition. It's a transition from one state to another. And as such, that's exactly what Samhain is. It's our big transition from summer and harvest seasons into winter, and preparing ourselves for what that can actually mean for us. Having to be cooped up inside more, having to deal with the harsh biting colds and all the challenges and struggles that our ancestors would have gone through at those times as well. It's a time to reflect on that, but also a time to reflect on how we can grow from these times as well. So I hope that's given you a little bit more insight into how it can be celebrated as a holiday, and I hope it gives you some ideas on what you might be able to do to bring a little bit of that Samhain energy into even your Halloween festivities. Remember, modern Halloween festivities are kind of a time of fun and laughing and celebration, and while Samhain can be that as well, it is also a time of deep inner reflection on where we're at in our own lives. So even if you can take just an hour to do a little bit of remembrance of that as well, I think there's a benefit to that. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful Samhain and a wonderful Halloween, and I will talk to you all later.